I wanted to ask you, I know you travel around the country giving financial advice to others, telling them the importance of developing a money mindset by creating wealthy habits. Now, what do you mean by the term having a money mindset?
So having a money mindset, to me, basically means that first and foremost, you take personal responsibility. Like your mind is set that you are ready, willing, and able to manage your money. And so a lot of times when I go places, Bridget, people just want to hear about, how do I fix my credit? How do I budget? How do I start a business? But the reality is I can give them that advice all day. And if their mindset is not in the place where they are absolutely ready to do those things, and where they understand that those things are just external, there has to be some type of internal change too, then they're going to continue to chase building financial success based on creating a budget. And we all know that a budget doesn't work unless you've set up in your mind that you're ready to use it, right? So creating wealthy habits are just about really getting in the mindset, getting in your head that you are ready to do it and that you are ready to sacrifice if sacrifice is necessary, or do whatever it takes to achieve the intended goal, which is financial success.
Well, though the economic downfall happened many years ago in 2008, people are still feeling the effects of the recession. So, do you still believe it is possible for young entrepreneurs to be successful during these uncertain times?
Absolutely. I believe that it's possible for young entrepreneurs to still be successful. I actually started a business in 2003, did very well, and still lost everything in 2008 during this recession. And so I went from a 7-figure business to scraping up change to feed my daughter. So I am one of those young entrepreneurs. And over the last 6 years or so, my husband and I have both worked to become entrepreneurs again and build again successful businesses. And so I always tell people that when I talk about the wealthy habits, one of the things that we learned was, again, that we had to take personal responsibility for how we lost big in that recession, so that we could get in control and determine for ourselves how we could move forward. It wasn't necessarily about what was going on with the government or the economy or the president or anything else. It's about, figuring out where there's a problem and deciding that you're going to be the solution. And so whatever you can do to market yourself as the solution, that's what you do. And so, the first time around, I didn't build my business using social media because it didn't exist. But now there's social media, and so I've been able to rebuild a platform. My husband doesn't really use social media, but he's been able to network and use his relationships to also grow his business. So I think I'm a living example for young entrepreneurs of what's possible, and it absolutely is possible.
Well, in a recent survey, around 76% of Americans live paycheck to paycheck with little to no emergency savings. How can people overcome such a hurdle?
I really believe that there's two things that we can look at. The first thing is, when we talk about living paycheck to paycheck, I've sat down with hundreds of people personally, one-on-one, for counseling and coaching. And what we found, that when we really go through their spending habits, when we really get down to the nitty-gritty, is that folks are not really budgeting this money because they feel like, well, I don't have enough to budget. The reality is, you can't afford not to budget if you feel like you're living paycheck to paycheck. That has to be a wealthy habit, if you will, that you incorporate. And so when I sit down with people, there's always something that, for the most part, that we can adjust or tweak in order to get that money for them to start saving. And sometimes folks don't realize that even $5 a month, yes, $5 a month, can make the difference, because it's about building up the muscle. You have to start where you are. It doesn't start after you start making, $100,000. It starts based on where you are, and that way you're already in the habit. And then the second thing that I normally suggest that people can do is, I've sat down with folks too who we've looked at cutting everything we could cut, and it just wasn't possible. And so once we've cut everything that we could cut, maybe it's not an issue with how you manage anymore. Maybe there's an income issue. And so, I really believe that we all have a talent, a skill, a gift, something that we can utilize and turn into additional cash. Even if it's $250 a month, it might make the difference. And so I'm always encouraging people, not that you have to be an entrepreneur, but that you have to always think outside the box and think about what you can do personally to create a couple hundred extra bucks a month that'll help you with building that emergency fund.
And with a financial advisor, what would you say to someone that would be interested in investing like in Bitcoin or the stock market? Do you think it's too risky or it's worth it?
You know what? Actually, Bridget, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm a financial coach. And so I really don't give investing advice to anyone beyond my family and my mom. So that's not really my lane. But I would always tell anyone that you only invest in things that you know about. So before you invest your hard-earned money in anything, make sure you take the time and the due diligence to do your research and that you feel comfortable. And also make sure you're at a point that the money that you're investing is not money you can't stand to lose, because we know with investments come risk. And so you can't take the little cash you may have on hand and invest it in something and then be mad if it doesn't work out, because there was a risk there. So always keep that in mind.
Okay. Now, since we're heading towards the end of tax season next month, what tips would you give the families on how to maximize their tax returns?
Well, one of the first things I would say is not to wait until the money hits your account to think about what you're going to do with it. So as soon as you file taxes, or even before, and you're expecting a refund, I always tell families to think through what their real necessities are. Is there any debt that they need to pay off? Is there any money that they need to save? I know we could all use some additional money in savings. Are there any maintenance items around the home or car, or even on your physical body? Like if you need to go to the dentist because you're, one toothache away from disaster, right? Think about those things now and budget towards them. Create a plan. And it's never save all the money if you have debt, or use all the money to pay off debt if you have no savings. You want to create balance, and you want to make sure that you can just make progress in each one of these areas. So definitely sit down as a family and think about what really needs to be done, and then prioritize it and stick to it. Don't get too excited when the money hits your account.
And how can a person find out if they're eligible for free tax services?
Well, actually at myfreetaxes.com, any household that earns $60,000 or less is eligible for free tax preparation and assistance. And so, that's really over half of Americans who are eligible to take advantage of this service. And what I love about myfreetaxes.com is that it's not just the filing that they get to take advantage of for free. They also get help, whether that be via email or telephone or online support from IRS certified specialists who will also help them for free. So the thing about it is, even though they're self-filing, they're not alone in the process, and there's someone who can help them go step by step through it. So great service, and absolutely free for those who have a household income of $60,000 or less.
Okay. And this website, myfreetaxes.com, this is where listeners can get more information on what materials they should have ready for their filing their taxes?
Absolutely. At myfreetaxes.com, there is a checklist to make sure that you have everything you need in order before you even sit down and start the process.
Okay, then thank you for giving such practical advice, Patrice. Thank you for sharing your financial wisdom with us today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, you have a good day.